starting to think a little bit bigger. And if you think the way you're thinking now and operate the way you're thinking now and run a business the way you're thinking now, or even live your life the way now is, you're going to get now. A year from now, you're going to be still stuck at now.
All right, welcome to Quest for Keys, where we highlight key moments in entrepreneurs' lives that unlock doors on their path to success. I'm your host, Hoan, and joining me is the ever-inspiring Alvin. Today, we have a very special guest and our very good friend. His motto is transforming lives through real estate. With over 15 years in the business, $200 million in assets under management, and the author of one of the most influential books in the industry, Raising Private Capital. He absolutely lives up to the motto, whether it's doing fix and flips or turning around a 336 unit apartment building. He is incredibly skilled at what he does. So everybody, please welcome Mr. Matt Faircloth.
Oh, Hoan, I'm going to bring you with me, and every room I walk into, you got to do that again. Okay. That was awesome. Thank you very much for that intro. I appreciate you. And honored to be here, and already a big fan of the show. When you guys told me your show concept off air, I think this is awesome, and I'm really, really commending you guys for your new venture.
Yeah, thank you.
It was all Alvin's idea. Alvin's idea, brainchild behind all of it.
Yeah. I mean, look, Matt, you've been such an influential person in my life, so this is very, very fitting. You know, I don't know if I ever told you this, but like a couple years ago, I was kind of lost a little bit, and I first met you at GoBundance, my very, very first mastermind. I don't know if you remember this, Steamboat, but I was kind of in a crossroad where, you know, I had a business, I had a design agency, I had a toy company, and it was just right after COVID, you know? So, you know, my business was kind of on a standstill. I lost a few clients. It felt like I was starting over. And then my toy company distribution stopped because everything's coming from China. All of that stuff like was kind of being held in a port. And I was also doing real estate. And I remember we were in a circle in a group where we were kind of you know, giving back to everybody and honing down on, I guess, issues that we're having. And you challenged me. And what you said to me was, is there a reason why you're still holding on to all these businesses? Why aren't you just focusing on one thing? And I got to tell you, that pivotal moment was a big key that unlocked a different pathway for me. So I'm like totally like inspired by that. So I just want to want to let you know, like, man, that was my very first experience in a mastermind, actually. And you've effectively changed my life, man. So this is very, very fitting for me to have you as our first guest here, because it's an amazing.
That's an honor, man.
It's an amazing part of my journey. So I'm, you know, like the one key thing that I found from that is like, you know, I got stuck in my own identity at that point. And you gave me that awareness. It was just a blind spot I didn't see. And it's, you know, I will be forever grateful.
Dude, I got to tell you, Alvin, thank you. And that's validating to hear that you, that I made an impact, because there are times I'll bet, and I'm not trying to like, you know, shed the spotlight here, but there are times I'm sure that one of you two have provided a key moment to someone in your lives, right? But you don't know how your words impact others sometimes, right? And there's plenty of times that I've given folks advice, and you know, you can kind of tell in one ear out the other, right? But there's also been key moments like that in my life that people have given me some words of wisdom, and I'm like, huh, you know, let me think about that. And I'm grateful that I could have provided that to you, because you never know when your words are impacting another. And so I really admired a lot of what you built and a lot of what you've created, and to know that I contributed to you in a small manner like that is really validating. So
yeah,
thank you for telling me.
Thank you. And one more thing. Look, you know, ever since then I've sort of been scaling, and you know, I actually started reading your book on private capital, because all up to this point, I've been sort of, you know, DIY. I've been kind of raising my own capital, and you know, I'm like trying to scale, and I'm hitting a bottleneck, and all of a sudden I'm like, you know, I got to start raising some capital. So I picked up your book.
Mm-hmm.
I got to be honest, I haven't quite finished the whole thing yet, but
It's all good.
I was so inspired. I started raising capital, and up to this point, I've already raised, maybe a couple million already. I'm like, dude, Matt, you already kind of inspired me, and like, man, I can't wait to finish the book because it's just gonna, propel me even faster. So, with that being said,
That's great, man. That's great. There's no business out there, and I've to like just dive into raising private capital, right? Like, there's no company I've ever come across that's any more than like a mom and like, if you're any bigger than like a mom and pop or a small operation, you're going to have investors. You're going to need to bring outside money into your business. Name me a company that didn't have to do that. Even family, even that's a family-owned business, whatever. You hear like M&M Mars, I even knew that, but like Mars that makes like Mars chocolate bars and whatnot. That's a family business. They're not publicly traded. But I guarantee you, they had to go and get Uncle Charlie and Aunt Susie or whatever as investors in their business. So that even family operations, non-publicly traded businesses, all of them at some point needed capital. And as real estate operators, we're no different. And we provide a great opportunity for those around us. So it's very important for people to learn how to effectively offer what we do up as a passive investment to people around us. It's a win-win.
All right. Well, let's transition to exactly that, actually, because we're just kicking it off. Matt, you are a nationally recognized capital raiser, real estate investor, just a pillar in the industry. Like, people know you, and it's a big deal to have you on this show.
Oh.
Here's the thing. There might be like a couple of people living under a rock who have no idea who you are and what you do. So let's give them a little bit of a taste of who Matt Faircloth is.
They could just go to watch this shameless plug. They can just go to DeRosaGroup.com and learn more about our company right there. DeRosaGroup.com, DEROSA, DeRosaGroup.com to learn more about learn about me and our business. Anyway,
there you go.
You like that? You like that? Right? A little slip and throw it in there. Okay, so I got started. You said 15. Believe it or not, Hoan, it's about to roll the odometer over to 20 years that I got involved in real estate investing. Yeah, man.
I've known you for many years then. Wow. Okay. I got to
for a minute. Yeah. I've known you, Hoan, for at least 5 to 6 years. If not longer than that. Pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So what my background is that I got into real estate investing 20 years ago because my girlfriend, now wife, put Rich Dad Poor Dad in my hand and got me tuned into the idea of buying assets for a living versus trading hours for dollars. And that got us into real estate investing and just the asset mindset. And we just did it on our own and with like immediate family money. And then it started raising money from third-party individuals. That was one of my key moments. Was our first check from a third party, not that I wasn't related to, and then scaled it up from there to the point where we own mostly apartment buildings. We've always had a passion for residential real estate, for all the reasons which I can unpack if you'd like. But so fast forward to today, and we're sitting on a couple thousand units of multifamily, a fund, and a very interesting and diverse team that helps us run all of it. So I'm no longer just a mom and pop with my wife and I running this whole thing. We've got a phenomenal group that does it with us.
Got it. I know, Alvin, you had a couple of questions about the private money raising. So before you go into that, so Matt, how much money do you think you've raised over the years? I know
it's 62, 63 million, somewhere in there.
Oh, wow. Look at that. That's quite a bit of money, right? So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Let's definitely listen to Matt when he talks about raising private capital, because he's the man.
But my first check was $50K, right? And that's where a lot of people listening can start. And we've applied a lot of the same principles that we learned in raising 50, 100, 200K. We just learned how to do it at a scale and with a team. And anybody listening that wants to raise millions for real estate deals should start with 50K. In that. And if you learn how to raise 50K, it just gets easier every dollar that comes in after that.
So I do have a question. So given that I started raising capital recently and I have been, going more in the, I guess you can say debt model, just raising capital for gap funding. I've been doing pretty good at it, but at the same time, like I know at some point I'm probably going to bottleneck because I'm going to run out of people to capital raise from. So, I know right now I'm still building a I guess, my machine and getting to a point where I know I can scale. But at some point, what do you say? How do I transition, or is there a need to transition to more of a syndication or even a fund model? Or what are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like it's two different. I feel like I'm gonna hit a fork in the road at some point, and do I need to make a decision, or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, just like any good teacher is going to say, well, it depends, Alvin. What I would say is that if you're doing short term debt, that's like what's a typical loan time cycle for you?
I do everything 6 to 18 months right now, but it's more for our short
Okay.
term sort of fix and flip model, and not necessarily like the bigger plays. And it's working for what I'm doing, but I don't know how sustainable that is, and this is why I'm asking this question.
Yeah. A couple different solutions that this is what worked for us, right? We started broadcasting everything that we did. And this is how, and this is, it was a different time to start a YouTube channel. I started a YouTube channel in 2000, like 13, 14, somewhere in there. And not, I mean, there were still plenty of people on YouTube, right? But like, Mr. Beast wasn't on YouTube yet and all that kind of stuff. So it was easier to get a YouTube following. And what we did was we just put deals that we were up to out there on YouTube, and that in itself generated some outside the outside of our circle investors and private lenders. So that's a recommendation: is document all the work that you do. And you want to hire a camera crew, hire a camera crew and go and talk about the interesting things that you're up to and broadcast it as a teacher. That is how you're going to attract outside the current fold of people. And it'll also be a great way to get your current investor base excited about what you're up to and want to give you more. Secondly, that's the reason I asked about the time cycle of your deals. The easiest way to grow in raising capital is to take an investor's dollar and reuse it over and over and over again. That could evolve into being a fund, right? So that is something that you could say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Investor, you got 50K into this one deal, and you're happy, I'm happy. Probability of you working with me once I give you this money back is at least more than 50%. So why don't I build a fund that you could put that money into, and it's more of a set it and forget it vehicle where that fund is going to be involved in all my projects. You're going to make a rate of return, maybe plus some upside. You'd have to structure that. But I think you could create a compelling story with investors and transition them over to a fund while you also keep doing onesie twosie like 6 to 12 month projects, because that allows you to recycle the cash over and over and over again. So I would go fund, I would broadcast what you do on social, and I would keep to that short cycle loan, because that I can tell you we have a short cycle loan fund as well. And what's neat about it is it enables you to keep the money rolling and do deals. And as this loan pays back, you can find other opportunities. The only challenge with a fund is you got to keep the money moving. And so you can't have a dry spell of deals. You can't just, I guess you could just give investors their money back and say, hey, there's nothing doing right now, so I'm just going to go return your capital. But you're better off to just have enough deal flow that you can keep the money moving in the fund. And we have found at our company that's the biggest challenge, is to project out pipeline for projects that are going to happen 3 to 4 months from now, that the fund is going to be putting itself into, and kind of having the binoculars to look enough into the future that I know the fund is going to be fully utilized in that. I don't know if I'm going too granular or not, but that's, in hearing what you're up to, I think that's what I would do. And on top of all that, ask for referrals. That's another way we grew, is we told our investors, hey, this is what we're doing, and you need to tell other people about it because we're really excited and this is a great vehicle. So please tell your friends.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like eventually I should be going towards the fund model at some point, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Anybody that's doing one-off loans like that typically gravitates to a fund model eventually, because then you've got a ever-growing pool of money that you can put to work in your deals. And just as the fund grows, you can grow your business, instead of like, okay, I'm doing this deal right here, I got to go find 200K or 500K or whatever it is. You have to scramble to go find it. You'll have more sustainability and ability to kind of like project what you're able to do. And it'll be really easy to say no to deals or yes to deals because you'll know what your fund is capable of. And it's like, okay, I've got deals coming in and I don't have enough money to do it. Then there's just a lever you have to push to increase the volume of traffic coming into your fund. That could be a marketing campaign. That could be, working with another third party capital raiser to help you raise money into the fund or something like that. But it'll give you better vision as to what your business is going to look like over a couple of years if you've got a fund. Because then, like I said, it gives you the ability to say no, as I had said before. So like some big, hot, sexy project shows up that you need $2 million in equity or in private loans to do, and your fund has nowhere near the capacity to take that on, you can just say, okay, no, too big. I'm not going to do that. And that level of clarity really frees you up to focus on what you can do, you know? So that's why funds, I think,
So
are
it
great.
sounds to me like the sooner I do that, the better. Or is there like a certain sort of litmus test?
You got enough track record.
Okay.
No, I mean, what do you have at work right now, and how much are we talking? How much do you have? I mean, again, if you're okay disclosing, what do you have at work right now in loans in your deals?
I have like 7 or 8 projects, and everything's using hard money lenders that I'd use 90% leverage on, and I'm only really raising funds on the gap funding.
Yeah.
So, and I use that same model on all my projects. Now, I haven't picked up bigger deals yet, but everything in California sounds like a big deal because we're talking millions here, even for just one project. So that being said, like I don't actually know the numbers because I don't have it in front of me.
Okay,
But
I would, well, to answer my own question, the reason why I like a fund for what you're doing, if you got 7 projects going, a fund could certainly, have plenty to eat, so to speak, on that level of deal flow. In addition, hard money likely is more expensive than what your investors are going to tolerate taking as a return, right? So you could end up borrowing less hard money, which is going to be cheaper for you, and working with your investors and giving that investor maybe a little bit of upside plus a preferred return that's going to be less than what the hard money monthly payment is.
So there's lies the challenge there, because here's what I'm dealing with. And I don't know how many of my lenders are actually listening to this, but my hard money lenders are actually cheaper right now than I do with my gap.
How much is a hard money lender getting?
Dude, I'm paying like anywhere from 9 to 9.5% on a 90% leverage.
Plus points.
My points are under 1.
Really?
Yep. Because it's California, dude. That's one of the reasons why I'm
Because
operating
you're borrowing
California.
like $2.5 million every time you do a deal, right? So they're like, hey, I guess we'll.
I wouldn't say 2.5, but it'd be close to
Yeah.
that. I mean, I do have like a limit of $3 million per project. But they're like funding like the 90%, 100% rehab, and potentially even my reserves. So I mean, so all I'm raising is like the gap funding, and I give my investors anywhere from 12 to 15%, depending on the project.
What if you came up with a model that the investors get a 8% preferred return, right? So they get 8% on their money, paid monthly, right? And it's a little bit of an accounting, mountain you got to climb there, right? So an 8% preferred return plus now I know I'm reaching for Alvin's wallet here, right? A percent of your project profit, okay? And that means that you've got to you might have to profit share with investors, but I can tell you, in us doing that, it opened up the kingdom, because a lot of investors want to do what we do. They want to be us, right? They want to be out putting money to work in alternative manners. They just don't have the time, right? And so you are their time broker. You are able to give them access to the profitability of real estate transactions without them having to put their time into it. You're putting your time into projects with their money. So what if you paid them? I mean, we built 3 townhouses in Philly, down in the Hoan zone, right off North Hope, Hoan, down in just outside of Kensington. We built 3 townhomes, and the investor in the deal got 8% on his money as a flat pref plus 15% of job profit. Now, I don't know if you're doing flips or if you're doing BRRRR deals. There's a way to figure it out on the BRRRR side where the investor doesn't stay in forever. You can just get them out based on appraised value. And when you refi it, you give them their profit. But for that deal, that investor made 8% of their money plus 15% of project profit in 10 months. Now, that this was the time. You can't guarantee this will happen again. That investor made 46% on their money by being in that fix and flip with us, right? But I got into the deal with no money out of our own pocket, and we were able to build 3 townhouses and crush it on profitability for us with not a nickel of my own money in the deal, right? So
Yeah, definitely,
pretty good
definitely a
trade.
model. Definitely a model I'm gonna need to get some further coaching on, but I'd love to pick your brain on that outside of this.
Yeah. No, hey, and
Awesome.
it is going back to the name of your show, right? That is the mindset that your listeners need to take in that, like, just start thinking a little bit bigger, right? And for you, Alvin, right? Like, you know, and I'm grateful I was able to make an impact on you many years ago, and we've been friends since, right? Like, I was able to create that moment, and my hope is that for anybody listening, just like I've had these moments too, of just starting to think a little bit bigger, because we tend to think inside our realm of reality now, right? And if you think the way you're thinking now and operate the way you're thinking now and run a business the way you're thinking now, or even live your life the way now is, you're going to get now. You're going to get like, and a year from now, you're going to be still stuck at now. And 2 years ago, you're going to still be stuck at the business size, physical size, mental capacity, all that stuff for what now is. The only way we're going to grow is by starting to like challenge our own thought processes and thinking like, you know, what's a way for your sake, right? What's a way that I could like 5 to 10x my access to investors, right? Okay, well, let me think a little bit bigger. And I just gave you some thought process briefly on what we did, but not for nothing, Alvin. What I just described to you, somebody else taught me. Right? I talked to my boy, like mine and Hoan's best friend, Dave Van Horn, taught me how to do that. Right? You know, because I described him onesie twosie loan deals, and he was like, "Why are you doing onesie twosie loan deals? Why don't you just build a fund?" You know, I was like, "'Cause I don't know how." And he just pulled out a piece of paper, and he was like, "All right, this is how you do it." You know, and I took the piece of paper and framed it.
Boom. Another key moment in my life. There you
Yeah,
go.
but
Man,
but
you're
that key moment in your life came from a key moment in my life, because Dave sat me down, who now runs like a billion with a B, $1 billion fund, and he showed me what a lot of his psychology and mindset was and how he built it. You know, I'm like, cool, there you go. See,
that's awesome, man. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah, that was a good key there. Just keep thinking the way you are, and you're gonna have what you have later. So yeah,
Yeah.
you got to change
And
all
if you're
that.
content with your life, if you're living in bliss and you just waltz through life and all that kind of stuff, man, that's cool. God bless. But and then don't ever change your thought process. But if you want to grow, the thoughts you've had are not going to get you where you want to go. The thoughts you have now are going to get you where you are now. That's it.
Well, selfishly for Alvin and I, the reason we even have this show is to invite people like you who will change our thinking. This show is really for us to progress. It's we may have listeners that steal these ideas, but no, this is selfish for us because we get to listen to people like you, Matt.
Yeah.
Wait, what you're dropping is
Thank you, brother.
incredible. Uh, yeah. Along that same line of raising private capital, what would you say people are doing wrong, other than like think bigger? So think bigger is a real big
No
common
more.
theme that I get from you. But like, what else? What else are people
So
doing?
many things. Well, I mean, to start with, like the illegal things that they're putting, you know, major stuff on social media for you know, then they're targeting non-accredited investors, or just they're soliciting without realizing it, and that's illegal. Can't do that. SEC violation right there. They're trying to sell securities without a license, and the SEC says you can do those things under certain guidelines, meaning like you only take if you're going to solicit or just in essence broadcast to people you don't have a deep personal relationship with. And a friend on Facebook is not a deep personal relationship with somebody, you know. Well, let's just own that. So because some people have misinterpreted the SEC rules about you having someone that you know, right, and saying, well, if they're my friend on Facebook or on social, then I've got a relationship with them. Nope. Try again. That's been proven to be wrong. And so those that are like bending or straight up breaking solicitation rules is the biggest mistake. Meaning like just, hey, I'm buying an apartment building and I'm going to return 50% rate of return on people's money. You should call me up. You know, big or small investor, hit me up, you know, without any disclaimers or legalese in there or whatever it is. That's a big no-no. The second thing that the mistakes that people make on is like they think that they can just raise capital by going to like, you know, privatecapital.com and not having to talk to people and not having to actually go to people in their own network and pick up their own handy dandy cell phone and call people that they already know, whether that people they go out to beers with or people that they go bowling with or the parents of their children's from daycare or something like that, talking to people in their own network about what they do and how others can make money with it. That's the people that think that raising capital does not start with your own core network, which it certainly does. And that those are the easiest relationships to infiltrate and bring around. So those are the two big mistakes that I see.
Got it. No, great answers. Great answers. Let's go. I do want to go more nitty gritty. You were going nitty gritty, and you thought you were going too far. I want to go further. So your fund, right? Your fund, 506C, I assume, for accredited investors, right?
See, Hoan, the DeRosa Income Fund is the name of that fund that I have, and because it's a 506C, I'm allowed to talk about it in a public forum like this, which is soliciting. It's just like me putting it on Facebook or on social media or on your podcast. I can now talk about it because we only take accredited investors, and it is registered with the SEC as a 506C excluded product.
Got it. And so now you're able to market, and fantastic. If you guys are listening to this and you want to put money into Matt's fund, absolutely do it. But I do want to understand, what is the investor investing in? Is it completely blind and you get to do anything you want, whether you want to open up a franchise, a Dunkin' Donuts, a fix and flip, whatever, or is it limited to a handful of things? So could you go deeper into that, how you structure that?
What you just talked about is called a blind fund. And you could start a fund called Hoan is Amazing LLC fund, right? Great name for a company. So you could do that and just say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Investor, you are investing in my business prowess, and whatever I decide to do with that money, I'm going to do, right? That's the way a lot of hedge funds operate, a lot of ginormous private equity funds. They're like, I could put your money into stocks. I could put your money into short-term bridge loans. I could put your money in real estate. Whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to do it because I'm a phenomenal operator, and you're just going to have faith and trust in me. That's called a blind fund, and the operator's allowed to do literally whatever they want. The only way you can launch a blind fund like that is if you're like, Warren Buffett, and your proven track record of decades of work experience, and investors are really just investing in your prowess and your capacity to do things. More likely, your fund is going to have a thesis, like I'm going to invest in, like, say for Alvin's fund, that apparently I've inspired him to get out there and do, might be for bridge loans on ADUs in California, right? The kind of gray area or the dance that operators need to do is we did this. It was a fund that we set up that it was called DeRosa Capital 6. And the problem we had there was I put too many guardrails around it. I'm like, hey, the Trenton Transit Center is going to get redeveloped really soon. And it was a $60 million project to rebuild the Trenton Transit Center. And there's a guy building an apartment building on the street or whatever. So my tea leaves said that money was going to spill out into the neighborhood around the Trenton Transit Center. So I said, I'm going to do a fund, and we're going to buy in these couple of blocks. The problem is, like, not everything in those couple of blocks is for sale or are assets that I wanted or whatever it was. So the DeRosa Capital 6 investment didn't go as well as it could have because we put too many just blockades around what we weren't going to do. Right. So the fine line that a syndicator has to walk is to build a thesis that is enrolling and inspiring your investors, and that is clear what the money's going to get into, but it's also opens up the operator to take advantage of opportunities as they see them. So like the DeRosa Income Fund is a short-term bridge loan fund. That's it. Not equity, short-term bridge loan. That's all that we can do with the DeRosa Income Fund. I can't go and put it into a franchise or a McDonald's or whatever. Although I did loan to a guy building a Dunkin' Donuts, right? So we really do have a Dunkin' Donuts development deal in the portfolio, but it went into his deal as a short-term bridge loan. I'm not equity in his Dunkin' Donuts. I don't get 5 cents for every cup of coffee he sells. I wish I did, but I don't. We just have a loan to him. That's it.
So that's more of a debt fund, correct?
Yes, but there's let's unpack that for a second. the way debt funds typically function is that the investor is going to view themselves as loaning money to a thing, and they're going to be getting collateral. They're going to be getting guaranteed monthly payments as a typical debt position would be, right? So I don't call the gross income fund a debt fund, although you could call it that. The reason why we don't is because investors get upside. Our investors are not getting a flat rate of return, and most debt funds deliver a flat rate of return, whatever that is, 8-9%, whatever you're able to structure as a payment for investors. That's what typical debt funds pay out. Now, our gross income fund is different because it is a straight equity play. So if we get ourselves into a deal, like I got a deal going out right now, guys, that's paying 20% short term, and so the investors get a piece of that 20%, loan. It's a 45-day loan, paying out 20% annualized, but the numbers made sense. So investors make a percentage of the profitability of that loan that I originate. So it's actually not a debt fund. If I were just paying my investors a flat 8% and I kept whatever I could make on top of that, then that is a debt fund. But what we have is not, it's like equity investing in debt, if that makes sense. Like the debt is the instrument, it's the vehicle, but the investors are going in as equity.
So is it still a GPLP? Is it still a GPLP structure and their LPs in this?
Yeah.
Okay.
You betcha. We're the GP, they're the LP.
Right. So GPLP, it's the same as a syndication,
Yeah.
but the actual asset is a note.
Yes.
It's not real estate, it's a note. And how that note performs, the cash flow that you get from that note gets cut up the exact same way as any kind of syndication, like a 8% pref with a 70-30 split or 60, whatever, 50-50, whatever it is. That's what you have.
Hmm?
So
yeah, we're 50-50.
Okay. Right. So you're a 50-50 split of the upside. So help me understand, though, when you were talking to Alvin, and Alvin was saying that he is raising capital for the gap funding between the hard money that he uses and what he has to bring to the table, he's raising that. And you were mentioning that potentially the doing it that fund way could save him money. But when you were talking about how your one investor or the one project that you did returned 46%, like if Alvin's paying out that 46% or whatever it is, it sounds like Alvin would have been better off just giving people a flat 8, 9, 10, even if they got a
I'll
flat.
solve it for you right here. Alvin, are you making monthly payments to your investors?
Nope.
Wow. Okay. I didn't make monthly payments either to my guy at 8%. He just accrued at 8. And then I paid him a chunk of the profit on the back end. And so what he liked was that, and another thing was, I couldn't give him collateral. I couldn't give him a lien on the asset. So we had a bank lend to us in a first position construction loan for acquisition and construction behind on the deal, right? So they issued distributions to us and everything like that. Investors' money went in with us. I went into closing with that cash, and our bank lent to us along the way for the construction. They came out, inspected the project, issued construction draws, but the bank was not willing to allow me to put collateral behind them. They wouldn't allow other liens on the property. Now there's ways you can get around that, but I'd rather just be more straight up with my bank, because the way people play that game is you close on Tuesday with the bank and then you put the lien on the property on Thursday and hope and pray the bank never sees it. Well, I don't play like that, but that's not what we do. So I couldn't give the investor collateral. And so it's arguable the investor's taking more risk, right? And so because they're taking more risk, they should be compensated more. And I didn't have a problem paying him 15% of profit. I mean, again, he made 15% of the profit, but we made the other 85. So that's how they got structured.
So that's a little bit confusing because your split was 50-50, but now you're saying 85-15. So help me understand.
Different deal.
Okay.
That was a one-off fix and flip deal that I did like 7 years ago.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
When me and Liz first met Andressa Gadelli, the co-host of and co-founder of the Real Estate Invest Her, we met her not to start this juggernaut brand to benefit women all across the country. We met her as a partner to do fix and flips with in Philly. And so me, Liz, and Andressa did that deal together years and years and years ago. And then her and Liz decided to start doing podcasts as a hobby. And that was the birth of the Real Estate Invest Her. But before that, Andressa was our fix and flip partner. So we did that deal many, many moons ago as a one-off project with one of our investors. It was only recently that we started a fund. Our fund's only just a year old. It just had its 1-year birthday last month.
All right, so let's shift a little bit here. You brought up your wife. So I'm currently working with my wife right now, and then I have a question for you. It's more personal. I don't know how you want to answer this, but
like, how do I end it? Right?
Yeah, I mean, look, like
Yeah, right.
like working with your wife. How are you guys able to maintain marriage, and what's the separation there, and what are keys that you've found, man? Because it's challenges come along. I assume, right?
We did it all wrong. That's how I figured out how to do it right. Is me and Liz did everything wrong in working with our spouse. Lot of fights, lot of late night talking about fighting about the money, fighting who should be doing what or whatever it was. But we finally rounded the corner and got there. And what I learned through the process is that in working with your spouse, you can't ever, either of you, look at it as if you're working for your spouse, and that like there needs to be a mutually agreed upon common ground that each other's standing on, and then you've got to mutually respect each other. It's got to be viewed as a partnership versus like, okay, my wife's my admin or something like that. And that's number one. Or your husband is just the guy that goes and meets with contractors or whatever it is each of you are doing. It needs to be viewed that you're both bringing mutual value to the table. Number one. Number two, it's really important to get very clear on each other's skill sets, and allow each of you to truly own a sector of the company. And I mean, what worked for Liz and I is to not work directly on top of each other and kind of have different divisions of the company that we run with, right? Liz, before Investor really, really blew up and took off, she was our investor relations manager. And I needed to allow her to own that side of the company. That when investors would come in, I would get them to a yes, and then she would take them through the paperwork they needed to do, to what they needed to sign, to distribute their K1s to them, and make sure they knew where the project was going, and send them their updates, and be their point of contact. Because like I'm almost like there to really make sure that their journey through investing with DeRosa was a plus experience. So that's what she did on her side. And I needed to let her own that, because at first I was trying to tell her what to do, and like, I should do it this way, not that way, and that didn't work, And she had to figure out that it doesn't work to tell me what to do all the time either. So we didn't need a boss from our spouse. We needed a true partner that was able to really own their sector of the company and have enough like ownership permission from the other spouse that if they want to change things up on the side of the company that they're on, they can. The spouses that I know that work with each other successfully do it that way, where like, this is Alvin's side of the company. This is what he does. This is his, dare I say, and Liz and I did this, write up a job description. This is Alvin's job description on what he is, and not so much a job, but this is what he's responsible for. And that means that your wife is not responsible for those things, nor does she have much of jurisdiction. You still need to have meetings and talk through what you're doing and what's happening, so you both are on the same page. But it's not really something. She's got to allow you to own your side, and you need to allow her to completely own and govern the direction of her side of the business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. That's totally what we're doing right now. She's managing the basically property management aspect of it, and a lot of the acquisition side, and I'm managing more of the growth aspect of it, which is expansion and really dealing with capital raising and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, clear definition and division of I guess responsibilities is key there.
Yeah. And you also got to leave room for the marriage. Like, we would make sure that we went on, dates to talk about, we would get a little bit of business out of the way, and then we just enjoy each other's company. After we were done having a business meeting, then we were just like, let's just be with each other, because we found earlier in our marriage, that's all we would talk about was business, and it just it doesn't make for a healthy environment if that's all you're talking about. You can't have too much of one. You can't have one and not the other, right? Like we did this diagram where like the marriage is in the center. It's like the beating heart of the center of the conversation. And then the business and the individual partner's interests are all around that. But the center, the most important part, is the health of your marriage, which is authentic, open communications with each other. Putting the other spouse's priorities just as important as your priorities are. Everything that any other married couple would do, you bring into the business relationship too.
And then after marriage comes children.
Yeah.
So how do you, how, so who owns that one? How do you guys, because you have the DeRosa group and Liz has Invest Her, and both
And we both
sound
have two
like
kids.
you both have two kids, the same two kids. It's not like you have
The
two.
same two kids. Right. We're not Brady Bunch. We both got two kids. Yeah.
Right. You both have the same two kids. So that's another, like, what's the key to success for that one right there?
So what Liz actually tells it better than I do, but I'll paraphrase it, that she realized, and it was not because I'm a chauvinist or because I wanted it this way. I just think most men allow their household obligations to evolve to a point where the wife ends up doing a lot of the doing, right? And what she figured out was that she was, dealing with other kids' obligations, cooking the meals for our family, making sure the kids had a healthy packed lunch in their pocket on the way to school, making sure that they were signed up for camps for the summer. She found that she was doing a lot of the parental duties. And so she brought it to me and said, hey, listen, we need to talk because my business is starting to flourish and I get yours is too, but we need to talk about the family roles. And because I'm a great husband, I said, you're right. Let's talk about it. And other a-hole husbands might say, well, that's your job. That's not what I do. I'm just going back to work, whatever. That's not the family that we're in. And that's not today's modern family anyway. We've gotten beyond the mindset, I think, that, the husband goes to work and the wife, stays back and deals with the kids. And if she's got time for a business venture beyond dealing with the kids in the household, then she can have that. That's not the world we live in anymore. So Liz and I sat down and we looked at all the things that needed to happen to keep our house running. And her and I made a list together. It was everything from like taking the trash out to cooking meals and keeping the fridge full of healthy food and kids' obligations and who's going to cut the grass at our house, all that stuff, right? So we broke it down and we divvied it up and we treated our household the way we treated our business. And now, like, okay, who's going to own these things? And I was in charge of grass cutting, which I picked up grass cutting because Liz used to cut the grass herself, right? I picked it up and I immediately hired a landscaper. Like, nope, I'm going to own it. It doesn't mean I'm going to do it. Right. So for $40 a cut, I get my grass cut because I'm in charge of it. That just means I'm making sure it gets done. I picked up making all the food and keeping our fridge full of healthy food. And I'm not going to do it the way she does it. The way she does it is she likes to go to the grocery store, find what's on sale, walk down the aisles, do this, do that. And like, oh, we need some pumpernickel bread. Let me go buy some pumpernickel bread. Nope, not doing that. No more pumpernickel bread. We're buying this kind of wheat bread because I know it's good for you and I know I can get it for a good deal. And I started doing everything on Instacart, right? Because I'm not, my time is worth more than it takes to go to a grocery store. So she had to start accepting that I was going to do the household things my way, but it got done, and our fridge is full of healthy food and it gets delivered to my doorstep with a smile. And yeah, I got to pay a fee, but what is my time worth? And she had to start to release that like, yeah, you're not doing it the way I would do it, but our fridge actually is full of healthy food and healthy food gets cooked every evening and it's made by me, by yours truly. And actually I like cooking, and so I got that need met. Now it's another obligation I have, but that's how we divvied up dealing with, raising two thriving kids is by just treating our household like a third business, and we had to departments and ownership and all that. Same thing.
When things were getting done your way and Liz was like, whoa, whatever. You ever throw down the card? Like, do you know who I am? I'm Matt Faircloth, 20 years in the business, 200. I wrote this book.
I wrote a book. I'm kind of a big deal, baby. No,
Yeah.
she knows who I really am behind all that hoopla and persona and everything like that. And I had to deal with that too, Hoan, about like her deciding about certain things with the kid because she picked up kids' activities, right? She was already doing that, but it was like clear, okay, now she owns that, and she might ask me for my opinion or have a say or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's her thing, and so she's going to make final decision on what the kids are involved in and what they're not involved in. And I had to be okay with that. And that might mean that my son gets signed up for wrestling, which is fine. It just means that at 7 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday, I'm taking him to a wrestling meet that she signed him up for. And I don't have an objection. That's just, again, like any other partner in a company, I'm supporting what my partner has set up for success for our family. And if that's what it looks like, I'm in.
Got it. Got it. So it sounds like actually this conversation is touching upon what we like to call the triad of success. All right. So what we believe is that success is built on these three essential pillars: health, wealth, and relationships. And mastering these areas will lead to a fulfilling life. So what are some key insights that you've gained on your journey regarding health, wealth, and relationships and how they all balance with each other? How have you accomplished
Sure.
that?
I'll unpack each one. I'll just touch each one, right? So for health, a key moment, many key moments is, I have a, direct gluten allergy, which I know you do as well, Home, that you and I share that. And we text gluten recipes and gluten suggestions back and forth to each
Hey, yo,
other.
Matt, get the pizza.
No,
Yeah.
no, even better. Like I introduced Hone. This is probably a key moment in Hone's life, probably top 5 moment. I introduced Hone to gluten-free fried chicken. What?
Yes.
I know. This joint by me up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and Hone and I have been there. And Hone loved it so much he had to buy another bucket to take home to his wife, and all that of fried chicken to go. Anyway, I found that was one of my health aha key moments is discovering I had celiac. But beyond that is just really trying to live with the purpose of longevity, realizing that I'm 48 years old and I do not need to function like I'm 18 anymore. I don't need to bench the absolute most weight that I can. I need to institute what another fellow GoBro gave me, key moment, called the minimum effective dose of workout. I need to do the minimum that I can do of running. I don't need to train for a triathlon or a marathon. I'm not going to do that because it's a great way to blow out a knee, right? What I need to do is enough cardio to make a real impact on my heart and on my weight management, right? That's what I need to do. And that might mean, like I did this morning, 25 minutes on the treadmill. That might be the minimum effective dose of cardio or a certain amount of weightlifting, but no more than that. Because more than that's going to run the risk of pulling a muscle. So that's what I've found for my health is that key insight that another GoBro gave to me was do enough to keep your body healthy, but avoid injury. Because I don't want to pull a muscle, break an ankle, whatever it is. At my age, I don't want that. I want to just have a thriving, healthy body, and I'm not going to enter a weightlifting competition or a marathon anytime soon.
Minimum effective dose. I like that. Yeah.
And I'll plug him right here because he's the man. Dr. Stephen Hatcher was the man that put that one in my ear, and
Hatcher.
we all know him, we all love him. He's a fellow
Love him.
GoBro, great man, and he's very giving, very sharing. Doesn't go on many podcasts, but you can convince him to come on here. He's a great interview.
We'll get him on here. We'll get him on here.
Well, at the end of the show, when I interviewed him years ago, I was like, "Hey, man, thanks for coming on the show. How do people get a hold of you?" And he goes, "They don't." I want anybody calling me, I'm just here to talk to y'all about real estate, It was like that's great because people always like to plug their website or whatever it is. No, he's good. Anyway, wealth. What I learned in that if you want to get wealthy, you either have to buy assets and invest or get lucky. I chose to stop buying lottery tickets and buy assets and invest years ago when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And when I am focused on building my long-term wealth, that is what I strive to do every day, is to find assets that are going to build my long-term wealth. And, not cash flow, but also I want to walk out of that cash flow with an asset too that'll grow in value over time.
Like that. Health, wealth, and relationships. So relationships.
Relationship key moment. My brother-in-law gave me this tip, and hopefully this is a key moment for one of your listeners as well. A conversation that my wife and I took on early in our life, and we use it in our marriage and our business too. And it's a conversation called continue, start, and stop. And it's important to take to any business partner, any relationship that you have with any human being in your life, and continue, start, and stop. Just works like this. Like, hey man, hey, wife or best friend or business partner, whatever. What's something that we are doing great that we should continue doing, right? What is something that we and typically continues easy because it's like, hey, this feels good. We're already doing this. This feels good, right? So we should continue these things. Now, start typically comes from watching others, because if you're not, it's like you kind of walk your life with blinders on, so to speak, and you end up watching someone else, or like, like Dr. Steve Hatcher putting that idea in my head or whatever. And you maybe get a start idea of something we should bring to our relationship, perhaps by watching someone else, reading a book, listening to a podcast, or watching someone else that we look up to that's successful. What are they doing that I should start doing? That's a start. So it's like, hey, we should start. For my wife and I, one of our starts a couple of years ago was once a quarter. And I mean, both y'all with young kids get this one, that this is a feat to pull off. One overnight per quarter. That's just the two of us. Right? Overnight date, sleep away from the house, find someone else to watch the knuckleheads while we're gone, and there we go. Right? So that's a start. And we learned that by watching someone else that we looked up to in our lives. So that's the start that we took on. And then the last one in continue, start, and stop is, of course, stop. And that's the most difficult one. That's the one that requires a lot of authenticity in a relationship, the one that you really got to take your mask off and be real. And it's like, hey, it doesn't work when you do this. I had a propensity a while ago in our marriage and I didn't even know I was doing it, but she called me out on it during a continue, start, and stop. I had a propensity to not let my wife finish her sentence, when we were talking. And I would just even know I didn't even know that I would start talking when she wasn't done her sentence. And it really bothered her. I didn't know I was doing it, and I didn't know that it bothered her that I was doing it, right? But she brought it up during continue, start, and stop exercise. And I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. And now I don't do that, unless I'm off my game or whatever, but I'm way more intentional about allowing my wife to finish her sentence. In that, and it sounds so simple, but guess what? Little things that we do, little ticks that we have, tend to tick people off on our relationships. And so if we create a space for them to disclose what those things are, it's a way to build a better relationship. So continue, start, and stop, guys. Was a total key moment for my personal relationship with my wife. But I use that exercise in other relationships I have, my business partnerships and whatnot. It's a great, super simple, but extremely powerful exercise.
I like that. It was really good. It was really good. Now, we're going to wrap up, but there's one more relationship I want you to just maybe talk about, and you may not be prepared for this one, but you and I have had really great conversations around this. But like, what is your relationship with yourself?
Hoan, thank you. It's improving. Yeah, and I'm loving me these days, and that's because I'm not afraid to even put it out there. Like, I mean, for the first time in 30 years or so, the last couple months, I've been. I wish I got like an affiliate fee, because I hear this advertised on podcasts all the time, and that's BetterHelp. So I'm in therapy on and I go to a therapist on BetterHelp, and it's on my friggin' cell phone. It's on Zoom. It's great. And so I go and talk out all my stuff. And it's great to be able to talk out your deepest, darkest fears and your deepest, darkest concerns and roadblocks, obstacles, false judgments of yourself with a third party that's not someone that's related to you, your spouse, whatever. Of course, my wife or any of your wives would certainly listen to anything you have to say and be a good sounding board for you. But if you really want to get real with somebody, you need a third party that's unbiased, that is a trained professional that's over here, that kind of knows how to walk you through personal discovery, right? don't ever think that just because you've got a best friend that's a good listener that you don't need to go into therapy, or because you've got a spouse that allows you to say anything you want, that you shouldn't be talking to someone to talk out your stuff and to elevate your own game, you know? And so I'm proud to say it. I'm not embarrassed of that I started seeing someone through BetterHelp. It's really cool. Not to like promote the app, but it's a very cool app. It's very affordable, and it's very neat the way that their onboarding process went down. And so I recommend it to everybody. I've already promoted it to like 3 or 4 people that are friends of mine. Like, hey man, you gotta check this stuff out. This is really cool. And I've learned that like you want to be successful, you want to raise your game, you want to like I guarantee anybody that you and I look up to that are like ginormous operators, like people that I know that are like top of GoBundance, that are like 9-figure heirs, right? They've been through therapy. I've talked to them personally. You know who I'm talking about. Like the big folks that everybody looks up to in GoBundance. All of them have been through personal development, ways to improve themselves, because you realize that left to yourself, like I said before at the very beginning of the episode, that if you got your own thoughts and you don't change your own thoughts and your own view of yourself, you're going to be the same person you are next year. Right. And if you want to grow and become a better person, you've got to change your mindset, change the way you look at things. And therapy is one way to get there. So that's my journey, Hoan, in loving me more and more each day.
What an answer. I really appreciate all the conversation you and I have had over the years, like personal, like not business, not this. I know like you and I have had a lot of even coaching and things like that. And so we speak the same languages, if you will.
Oh yeah. Oh, Hoan, offline, if you want, I'll tell you about like my first call with my therapist. We went through all this stuff and I unpacked a lot of stuff. And towards the end of the call, we got into what a major misunderstanding I've had of myself that's been standing in my way for 48 years.
Wow.
I was like, oh shit. If I realize that a lot of my uncertainties of me and, just a lot of stuff that's been in my way has been because of this one thing, and if I just change my perspective of me, about that, then all those things dissolve and go away. And it was one of those most powerful moments, yeah.
Of
And I'm
course.
happy to share with
Wow.
you offline.
Fantastic. Love it. All right. Well, unlike the doctor, Matt, how do people get in touch with you?
Isn't that a great answer? They don't. They leave me alone. Yeah, no. They can certainly call me. They can go to, because I ain't done growing. They can go to DeRosaGroup.com. You can see it on my shirt, DeRosaGroup.com. And on that website, they can hear all about the educational products that we offer to teach people how to raise their game in real estate. And also, people want to really go passive and just allow us to do the work while they collect the checks. They can also passively invest with DeRosa through some of our accredited offerings that we have there.
Awesome. So whether they want to learn how to be a real estate investor or they just want to invest in real estate, they can go to DeRosaGroup.com.
You want to be a real estate investor or you want to invest with a real estate investor, you can go to DeRosaGroup.com and
There you go.
Do both.
Yeah, well, thank you for being our first guest on Quest for Keys.
Well, it's an honor to have me here, guys. I only ask that you guys have me back and we can talk about more Quest for more keys another time.
You got it.
All right, guys. I'm Hoan. That's Alvin. That's Matt. That's the show. See you guys next time.
Yay.